Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the QCC webinar number 6. We call ourselves the QCC for the Quad County Collaborative. It's a beautiful collection of school nutrition professionals, our county partners of Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Riverside, and LA, and a wonderful collection of industry and community. I hope you stay tuned all day long. Well, actually not all day. We'll have you for an hour and 35 minutes. We're calling this series Coming Up Short, Serving More Kids When Resources Are Scarce. Next slide, please. And I also wanted to thank No Kid Hungry for sponsoring us today. I will be your guide this afternoon, Dr. Betty Crocker from Redlands Unified School District. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you encounter any technical difficulties, please, do it the old-fashioned way. Sign off and then sign back on. If the problem persists, just use the chat box to ask for help. As an attendee, you're in listen mode only. If you have any questions for the speakers, please enter those into the Q&A feature. And if you forget that and you put them in chat, we're actually watching that one too. This webinar is being recorded and it will be sent to you via email with the slides by next week. And we have a survey coming up, so tell us how we do in the post-webinar survey. Next slide, please, Tommy. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing you to our San Bernardino County community partner from our CNAP, which is Robin Ronkus. Robin, are you in the house?
Yes, I'm here, Betty. So thank you so much. And I'd like to welcome you all to, I think it's the 6th webinar that we've been hosting. And I just wanted to let you know that from the beginning, there are 4 Southern California Public Health Department collaboratives, all from CalFresh Healthy Living that have joined together, which include LA County, Orange County, Riverside County, and San Bernardino County. And definitely one of our the things that we want to do is to enhance communication between organizations, increase access to healthy food, address food insecurity, and this is what all of you are doing today. These CNAPs, or derivatives of CNAP, which stands for County Nutrition Action Partnerships, are responsive to the needs of each community and work together with partners to address a common cause. So from LA County, we have Kelly Warner. I don't know if Kelly's in the house. Might want to say hello. And then we also have Gina Osborne from Orange County, as well as Andrea Moray from Riverside County. And these are your CNAP coordinators or nutrition access coordinators. And you can connect with us by email or by phone. And we would love to partner with you. So I'm going to give it back to you, Betty, and thank you so much. Oh, one other thing. I just want to make, tell you that our Quad County School Meal Access Collaborative is co-chaired by Betty Crocker. She's part of that. With Redlands Unified School District, we have Julie Nichols from Adelanto Elementary School District, and we have our No Kid Hungry partners, including Daisy Munguia, Robin Hernandez, Andrea Cuellar, and Tommy Lee. And so I just want to thank everyone, and thanks for tuning in today. So back to you, Betty.
Thank you, Robin Ronkus. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for you. And so I would highly encourage you to get on these ladies' email broadcasts. I always get great information. Thank you so much. Tommy from No Kid Hungry, would you give me that next slide, please? Beautiful. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our host that always helps so many ways. And this is really big for us at QCC, that No Kid Hungry again and again steps up to host these webinars and bring our community together on these 4 counties. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ms. Andrea Cuellar.
Thank you, Betty. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Cuellar, and I am one of the program managers for Riverside County in the San Gabriel Valley. Next slide, Tommy. We wanted to start off by saying thank you to all our lunch heroes. We wanted to thank you from the bottom of our heart and for all the amazing work that you've been doing. So if you're sharing any cool photos or stories on Twitter, please tag us. We would love to give you a shout out. Next slide, Tommy. Right now, Congress is making a critical decisions about policies that help feed children. And we have a small but important window of opportunity to make these policies make it into this year's reconciliation bill. With 13 million kids facing hunger today, our priorities are closing the summer meals gap by making sure summer EBT is available nationwide, strengthen school meals by expanding the community eligibility provision, and last, to extend the expanded child tax credit to ensure struggling families have the resources for special needs. Tomorrow, No Kid Hungry has a day of action, and we would love for you, of course, if you have the capacity, but I promise it only takes 5 minutes, to join us. My colleague Daisy, we're gonna put in some links in the chat for this toolkit that provides you with examples, talking points, and simple action items that includes email templates, call, and tweets. And the tweet one is really cool because if you click on it, you just have to put your zip code and it would automatically give you the Twitter handle for the representatives that you need to add. And as we talk about toolkits, our Center for Best Practices has put together meal survey operation resources. These resources were designed to help nutrition staff plan for meal service operations under a variety of scenarios. For example, we have a equipment tips and toolkit that includes an equipment list for meal service, a tip sheet that offers guidance as schools consider how to handle meal delivery in or outside of the classroom, as well as strategies to increase participation. Another toolkit that we have is for feeding remote learners, which outlines the steps in which school districts can take to determine the need for virtual student meal service. It evaluates capacity and helps with choosing a service model that best fits the community. And the last one, I know it's one that has been requested the most in the past few weeks, is navigating supply chain disruptions. This toolkit includes tips for managing supply chain related issues, including driver, food, equipment shortage, as well as materials for communicating with your school districts about these issues. And the templates for those are also in English and Spanish. And now, as I move away from toolkits, our Center for Best Practices will be hosting a webinar that will cover tips for navigating supply chain disruptions this upcoming Monday at 12:30 p.m. Attendees will hear from 3 directors about how they're managing supply chain issues within their districts. The webinar will also cover available waivers and flexibilities from USDA to help schools respond when experiencing supply chain disruptions. And if you'd like to hear more information, including about speaker details, again, we're gonna be putting these links in the chat so you can register. No Kid Hungry is also hosting a workshop at the CSNA conference. And this is meant to be an interactive session. Participants will learn best practices for implementing community eligibility provisions in a universal meal state. And there in this workshop, we will highlight the numerous administrative benefits that this has. And this upcoming also webinar, is a little bit more San Bernardino County specific. It's with the San Bernardino County Department of Public Health, nutrition directors, and transitional assistants. This will be CalFresh promotion, where nutrition directors and administrators will learn how to use this CalFresh outreach to positively impact their budgets. So if you're within San Bernardino County, don't miss this opportunity to learn how CalFresh can be a win-win for you and your school district. And the very last one that I have is, if you guys joined last week's town hall, you know that California is now a universal meals state. So what does that mean for you? A quick refresher is that starting next school year, public schools, county offices of education, and charter schools will have to provide 2 free meals, which will be breakfast and lunch, regardless of eligibility. Also, districts who have an ISP of 40% or more must enroll in one of these universal meal provisions before June 30th of 2022. And as always, No Kid Hungry is here to help. We're launching our 2.0 CEP work group. This work group will have a series of workshops led by peers and experts that will give you a chance to have one-on-one support, active discussions with peers, and deep dives on topics like CEP overview, direct certification, extending eligibility, alternative income forms, communication to stakeholders, and to increase participation and capacity. And I know I gave you a lot, but that is it on our end. I hope you're able to attend all of them. Thanks.
Miss Andrea, First of all, thank you on behalf of all of the directors for all the work that you're doing to make sure that we have great access to these historic times. As I call it, it's our third year of working through COVID, our third school year, that is. And I appreciate you guys putting those links inside of the chat for all of us to grab, and we'll get registered for all of those. Thank you. Thank you so much. And it sounds like we might even see you up in Sacramento at CSNA. So I'd like to shift gears for just a moment and again, much gratitude out to No Kid Hungry for giving us the stage and allowing us to share a spotlight of these 4 counties, of our quad counties of LA, San Bernardino, Riverside, and Orange counties. And so what we did is we collected voices within these 4 counties, and they're sharing their afternoon with us and sharing with us kind of what's going on with their corner. And our first speaker is Miss Agnes. And Miss Agnes Lawley is our Director of Nutrition Services at Apple Valley. Miss Agnes, can you hear us okay?
I'm here. I'm fine.
Beautiful. Are you ready to take the spotlight, girl?
I am ready.
It is all you. We look forward to hearing everything you have to share.
Thank you so much, Betty, for having me here today. To share some of the challenges and some of the overcoming that we were able to address with our staff and food shortages. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about our school district. We are a K-12 school district with 69 school sites. We are a CEP school district with an enrollment of 38,000 students. We are facing decline enrollment. We used to have 40,000, and this school year we have 38,000. At pre-pandemic, our meal participation was at 79% for breakfast and lunch. And what my superintendent is calling the time that we're in, she's calling the pandemic new normal, where our meal participation now is at 81%. So our meal participation is a little bit higher than what we had in the past, which is good. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So this is me. That's how I felt when we started school and the first couple of weeks when we discovered that we did not have enough supplies nor food for our sites. We were very we were getting a lot of calls from our managers, especially first days to school. We usually get our first fresh bakery from our vendor. We weren't able to get dinner rolls or any type of bakery. So nothing was showed up. And later on, we find out that our bakery was having a lot of staff issues, and some of the people did not show up to work, so they weren't able to produce some of the bread items. Then other deliveries started coming up that we had discovered that we are also short in some of the main entrees that we needed to serve to our kids. And as you can imagine, with the size of our school district, we're not just a couple cases missing here and there. It's somewhere between 100 and a couple cases. So after numerous phone calls to our distributors, we have to kind of take a breath, sit back and start making plans and start working with them as to what we can do to making sure that we are offering items that we wanted, say we wanted to offer and published at our menu. Next slide, please. Next slide. So I gather all our staff and I figured that in our operations, we were able to get through the pandemic with grab and go program of less than 8 hours planning. This is just another challenge. So I told my staff that we could do this. So after talking out to our distributors, we discovered that manufacturers are pulling out either from California or no longer producing certain products. And as you know, menu choices drive meal participation, and we don't want to lose any of our customers. And as you see our numbers, and the numbers had gone up, we're serving more meals this school year, even though we have less students. We wanted to be able to come up with plan A, B, C, and D to making sure that we are serving as close as we can with the menu. So for example, we had asked our distributor a list of items that's no longer available and asked for similar items that we could replace in our inventory. So like brand A chicken will be subbed with a brand B chicken, and sometimes we're taking commercial products. So our food cost is all over the places. Unfortunately, this became a 24/7 job for my nutrition coordinator, who calls every day with our distributors and finding out where our orders and how our orders are doing and how can we sub with some of those items so we can come as close as we can with our menu. She does the same thing with our supplies, asking what paper products or container are available to bring our sub items in. Next slide, please. So in the meantime, we wanted to be able to offer as much complete meals as much as possible to our students. So we started purchasing items from our local sources like Costco, grocery stores, and Aldi. Just give you an example, we make breakfast burrito every single morning for our high school students. We go through 200 to 400 burritos a day. That is approximately 233 dozens of tortillas a day. We weren't able to get tortillas in a full order. So I was able to go to Ralph's and call them up one day, and they were able to let us have whatever tortillas there are in their stores. And as a matter of fact, the store manager was so nice that he went ahead and ordered what we needed for the next couple of days from his tortillas vendors. We're all kind of brand of tortillas, but at least we were able to have breakfast burritos for our students. We also contacted some of the local manufacturers, take some direct shipment from them. We don't have a very big warehouse, but we took what we can to be able to use it and fulfill our menu that we are going to offer to our students. We also look back at our menu, we'll modify and reduce some of our menu selection. Things that we know we're not going to be able to get, we substitute other products. We reduce some of the menu selection in our secondary and our intermediate and the high schools to make it a little bit easier for some of our staff, and it's not so stressful for them that when products does not get to their sites. Next slide. Next. In terms of labor, we are a personnel commission district, so it takes a little bit longer to hire individuals for any of the positions. So right before school started, we had a handful of vacancies, and we started recruitment and hiring process. So it took a couple months to hire and fill some of the vacancies because during pandemic, we had a lot of retirement and resignations. So when we started school, we have approximately 70 new people that's joining us for the new school year. That's about 18% of my staff. We have about 402 staff working on my team. So that's quite a bit. And slowly we are able to fill some of the position. And even as today, we still have 20 some vacancy that is still opened. And at certain position, even though we have an eligibility list, but there are people that who still does not want to continue to work for us. It's been pretty, it's been very, very challenging. So we had asked staff to work extra time. We have staff working out of class. We also asked staff to work at multiple programs. For example, we have supper programs at about half of my school district. So we have staff that will be working at lunch, also working at supper. We have breakfast workers who's willing to work at lunchtime. Just kind of borrow Peter to Paul. We had some 2-3 sub. We don't provide a sub, just have them to work by themselves, whatever they can, or we have to on an easier day in an elementary side, we're pulling one of the people from the 3 or 4 people team to go into another school site. It's almost like playing chess piece all the time. It's been a really great big challenge, and staff are stressing out, but we're trying to keep as positive as we can to making sure that they don't get burned out, and that's one of my concerns. And we only been in school for 2 months. Okay, next. So with all these challenges, I just like to close my presentation with a quote that was shared with me not too long ago. It says, "Someday everything will make perfect sense. So for now, laugh at the confusion, smile through the tears, and keep reminding yourself that everything happens for a reason." Yeah, thank you.
Amen, Agnes. Thank you so much for sharing. You know, as the host, first of all, I apologize. You are from Garden Grove School District. I'm so sorry. I put you in the wrong county, so my apologies for that. And as the host, I could not put my question in the Q&A. So head on down over to the chat. Thank you so much for all your creativity for the kiddos out in Garden Grove with the breakfast burritos every day. Sounds like a great solution with your backup providers as well. So once again, thank you. Our next director is Miss Holly Hungerford. She is the Director of Nutrition Services at Spring Charter Schools. I'm just so happy to see charter schools participating in all of this, helping to feed the kiddos and participating in the QCC. So Holly, can we do a sound check for you?
Yeah, how's this?
That sounds fantastic. We're now putting the spotlight on you, girl. You enjoy, and we look forward to hearing everything that's going on in your corner.
Thank you, Betty. Springs is actually a network of 6 charter schools in Southern California. I've got about 10,000 students served at 21 facilities across 4 counties. So for Quad Counties, I'm actually representing 3 out of 4 here. And I don't think I've been to a single meeting in my administration this school year where I didn't hear people express concern with phrases like, people are not okay, and nobody seems well, and it's only the start of the school year and the staff are already exhausted. And my administrators, with no lack of love or compassion, will say things like, yes, we know the staff are tired. We're all tired. I understand. But what are we supposed to do about it? Because right now it's, all hands on deck, everything we can do just to keep schools open and children cared for. And finally, at the end of a meeting one day, someone comes out and says, I am so sick of hearing, yes, the staff are tired, because the staff are not tired, the staff are traumatized. And that was a game changer for some of us, because suddenly we were using a different lens through which to view the situation, and we had new language to have conversations about it. And it felt like maybe then we could actually do something with it. So what I want to talk a little bit about here is why our staff are experiencing trauma in the workplace, and understanding that, how we can better support them as managers. Can I have a slide, Tommy? Thank you. So although I'm focusing on trauma, I've included definitions of toxic stress and PTSD for comparison and context, because they're things we also hear about in the language of trauma and work and those things. But focusing specifically on trauma, there's these 3 components of this definition that are important to understand. First, the event can be singular or a repeated occurrence. The experience refers to how the person experiences the event, not what the event is specifically, and recognizes that individuals can experience the same events differently. Also, the same event happening to the same person at 2 different points in their life might be different. One might be traumatic and one might not be. And third, the effects can occur immediately or be delayed. They can be long-term or short-term, and they may not be recognized as connected to the original trauma. Slide for me, Tommy, please. The explanation I like as to why an event is potentially traumatic for one person and not another is one I was given years ago in an eating disorder workshop. And I find it easy to work with as a manager because it's all about resources. So an event is experienced as traumatic, meaning it elicits that feeling of threateningness or that sense of impending harm when the person doesn't have sufficient resources to manage it. And those resources show up in all of these categories of wellness. So we might be talking about financial resources, emotional resources, intellectual resources, social resources. All of these contribute to our ability to manage the experience of something that might be traumatic. As an example, small medical emergency could easily become traumatic for a person who doesn't have adequate financial, social, and environmental resources, while someone who has adequate health insurance and savings, good social support system, job security, and a comfortable home to recover in may navigate that experience without feeling any threat of harm or danger. So it's just a little, emergency appendectomy to that person. To the other person is an outrageous hospital bill that's going to ruin their life, inability to care for their kids, and time off to recover that might jeopardize their job. So this is essentially what's happening with our staff at work, like on an emotional level, but instead of these larger singular events, it's happening in little bits, like death by 1,000 cuts. So we're 2 months into the school year, and how many times has their delivery been canceled or shown up incomplete, or they've run out of food, can't get trays to save their lives, you're chronically understaffed, and the staff you do have come in every day not knowing what kind of crisis is going to turn up. And there's still this, impending dangerous communicable disease all around them. And that's just the hours that they're putting in at work. Like that doesn't include what's happening in their home life or outside of their workplace. So at any given moment, they may be having, they may not have all the resources available to navigate these events without experiencing it as harmful or threatening. And they're getting fried with these little repeated bursts of like sensing that impending danger. Tommy, can I have a slide? These are like the commonly accepted signs of trauma. And that can manifest in your employees at work as an increase in miscommunication or even confrontation with colleagues, inability to focus, decreased motivation or excessive working, feeling a lack of purpose or demonstrating that like lack of purpose, disengagement with work projects, avoidance, detachment or estrangement from colleagues, absenteeism, seemingly shutting down or like removing themselves from participation, and then diminished problem solving and creativity. And I'm sure as I say like this list of things, people can recognize this in some of their employees. Tommy, can I have a slide? Thank you. So just with that in mind, there are whole frameworks for how to create a trauma-informed workplace, and we're not going to get that deep into the weeds. But even without a complete organizational overhaul, there are actionable things we can be doing as managers right now. So that includes promoting awareness. Acknowledging what's happening with your staff is the first thing you can do. Talk about it openly. Something as simple as, I recognize some of these experiences have been traumatic, will be incredibly validating for some of your people because nobody is calling it like it is for them. You want to shift attitudes, getting away from blame and leaning into compassionate curiosity will go a long way in relationships and the way people even feel in a conflict. When something comes my direction, I like to say, tell me what's happening for you. That's always my first question. I also cannot recommend enough having staff CPI trained, if ever possible. CPI is a nonviolent crisis intervention training, very common in schools. Ask your counselors or your district if they have trainers on staff or if your county does. My school counselors, I usually have a few every year that are CPI trained. I know some county offices do it for schools for free. I've always been able to get it for free. But it's such a good resource for teaching staff to recognize that another person is in a state of crisis and practicing de-escalation strategies. They'll feel more secure and better equipped to handle conflict at work and reduces like some of that traumatic experience of, if one person's behavior is a result of some trauma happening, they can recognize that and like not be traumatized by it themselves because they have a resource to manage it. You want to foster safety, both physically and psychologically. That means addressing any real and perceived threats to safety. So not just the obvious, physical safety things that we can recognize, but the things that result in making them feel unsafe. That might show up as just being like mildly uncomfortable with some things in their job. Includes COVID safety, everything COVID safety. When I asked my staff, several of them had responses that were things that they thought seemed petty or like not a big deal, but they were constantly bumping up against these things in the course of their job that was, bumping up against that low level anxiety and discomfort of like not super safe. For one of my employees, wanted longer oven mitts. New employee just has really long arms and just wanted longer oven mitts because he every time put his hands into the oven with mitts on thought I'm still going to burn myself. Fine, new oven mitts. Some of my staff wanted organizational tools to reduce the feeling of chaos that they experienced at work. Super simple things, but the way it made them feel was the big deal. Whenever possible, you want to provide choices. This gives your staff the opportunity to exercise some control in the course of doing their job and encourages buy-in. It could be as simple as, do you want this long oven mitt or that long oven mitt? But sometimes, something I don't have a strong opinion about, but they do. And the more choices you can provide them, the better. Just remember that when you're providing choices to other people, you have to be okay with whatever they choose. So don't provide them choices that aren't acceptable to you. Do provide them as many meaningful choices as possible. Lastly, we want to highlight strengths. It can be really hard right now to feel good about what's happening at work when you're facing these constant small failures or the threat of these constant small failures. Remember to tell staff what they're doing right. Emphasize positive aspects of what they're putting into their jobs, and any opportunity you have to develop emotional intelligence with staff will contribute to their resilience and connection and understanding. I'm always a big fan of Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements because it's accessible for staff at all levels. I've never had an employee across all levels of my organization that couldn't get something out of that one in terms of their emotional intelligence. Last slide for me, Tommy. Thank you. If you want just a little digestible reading, these are 3 links with content that I found to be helpful. And one of them very specifically was about managing staff in the traumatic experience of COVID-19. All right.
Ms. Hawley, thank you so much for sharing. I'm wondering, can you head on over to the chat and perhaps provide a web link resource to the CPI? That was so informative of considering being CPI trained and rebranding and renaming and owning what we're moving through. I identified with just about everything that you shared and appreciate the resources.
Yeah, I'll absolutely do that.
Thank you. Thank
I'll
you.
pull it
Thank
up.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for representing 3 out of the 4 counties. I think you're the top county goer.
I got to win at something once in a while.
Amen, Chica. Hey, you're doing a great job.
Thanks,
you so
Betty.
much. All righty. So our next director is our Apple Valley director. This is Rose Stark that's coming our way. And Miss Rose is going to talk about going the extra mile with school food pantries. Before we go the extra mile, Miss Rose, can we do a sound check with you?
All right, can you hear me all right?
Girl, we can hear you. Tommy, can you give her the spotlight, please? Thanks, Rose.
All right. So next slide, please. So I first wanted to just say that our family centers is kind of where everything started with our food pantry journey. So that was really important for our district, is the the family centers allowed us to reach our communities the way we needed to. But we decided to consolidate our food part of this into the main food pantry. Our district isn't quite as big as some of the other ones, so that might not work for everybody to have a single food pantry, but it does work for us. Next slide, please. So where's Apple Valley? We're located in the Victor Valley area of the high desert. And like I said, about 49 miles north of San Bernardino, 35 miles south of Barstow, east of Victorville and Hesperia. So we're kind of a little ways away from the road, but not too far from civilization anyway. And our big claim to fame is being the home of Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. And we used to be able to say we had the Roy Rogers Museum there with the big statue of Trigger and everything, but can't say that anymore since they took that away from us. Next slide, please. So a little bit of history. Our district had our first schoolhouse in 1908. And if anybody knows anything about the area, it's just some foundations left there now, but it's at the corner of Bear Valley Road and Deep Creek Road. And we moved to our first school, which was Yuckaloma, in 1951. And then we became a school until 1985. We were just a school district, and we unified in 1985, adding our high school. And our first place that we had our family center was in Yuckaloma Elementary School. And you can see there the services that we provided. Next slide, please. A little more history. So from there, we added a family center at Phoenix and Sandia and Granite Hills. And then things started going a little bit faster when we started realizing that we had more need to help our families. We actually got some assistance from the Assistance League of Victor Valley to help provide items for the family's food and such. And at that time, we realized and this was during the pandemic, we realized that we needed to find a way to reach our families even better. Some of the families needed help with getting things to them. And during the pandemic, the family centers also helped us with providing assistance for handing out food boxes, which we did get through Gold Star for a while. We didn't get to keep those very long, but we handed out a lot of food boxes when they were available. And we couldn't have done that without the help from the family center employees. So that was something that helped us to start our our partnership with them. Next slide, please. And this just shows here all the things that our family center actually provides assistance to our communities with. So the two things that we're moving over to our district office, where our main food pantry is located now, is our actual food pantry distribution. And we do our harvest of giving at Thanksgiving, which we're coming up on this year pretty quick here. And during that harvest of giving, this year we're planning on handing out 250 turkeys and food boxes to our families. In addition, we also have all of our family centers offer assistance with classes and workshops and things for the families. So next slide, please. So in moving it over, in order to make that happen, we started with applying for a grant through No Kid Hungry. And at that time, Pat Shelby was our person in charge of making that happen. And so Pat Shelby applied for that grant, and with a lot of assistance from No Kid Hungry, Daisy and Andrea, I think, were very helpful in getting that done. They got this grant, and they had the vision of how they were going to make this happen. So we worked together to make this happen. Myself and Pat Shelby and our maintenance department met over at what used to be a kitchen at our district office, because our district office moved to Apple Valley Middle School. So we had our kitchen there, and we looked at that for how we were going to make that work for a food pantry. And it worked really well. We have the snack bar there, which was the perfect place to have the food handed out through. And we had a dish room that we emptied out and made that into dry storage. We added some refrigeration and freezers and just lots of shelving. And all this was made possible through getting the grant from No Kid Hungry. Then in addition to that, we also got an additional $5,000 grant from the Assistance League, which helped us with getting some more supplies to hand out. So then, with all of that together, we were able to purchase our initial equipment, and I worked with them in order to provide the guidelines for the right equipment to purchase, and they made the final decision on what they were going to purchase and put in there. And in addition, we also had partnerships with various organizations within the community. And Mariana Torres is now in charge of the food pantry, and she has applied for or put in an application with Feed America, and that is to allow them to get food for 19 cents a pound. So it'll help spread our food dollars even more. And then we also have our High Desert Second Chance Food Bank that's in Hesperia that we get food from every Friday. So early in the morning, we have a driver go over and pick that up and bring it back over. And then we have our volunteers that come in and assist with putting together all of our boxes, which we've gotten various things. So we get some bags from Stater Brothers donated, and the nutrition department saves as many boxes as we can so that we have boxes for them to put everything into for handing out to the families. Next slide, please. And here's a whole bunch of community partners that we have done things through. So we also have a partnership with United Way, and we have 75 of our students that get help for food to get them through the weekend. So like food backpacks or whatever that go home with them through the weekend. And this is just a picture of a sample of what gets sent home for the kids for the weekend. So next slide, please. I thought I'd throw in a few pictures. So this was what our dish room on the left and our snack bar on the right looked like before we cleaned them up for getting the storage and shelving and everything put in. Next slide, please. And this was what our maintenance department did to get everything cleaned up, which they did an amazing job. So it was all ready to put all of our racks in. And the next slide, please. So here we have the screen print and everything that got put on the front of our snack bar to identify that this was the place to come to. And you see some carts full of fresh produce. Those are donations we get. Then we have our advertisements that we put on into social media every week and goes home through Parent Square, letting our families know that our food pantry hands out every Friday from 1 to 3. Next slide, please. Here's a bunch of pictures of our distribution, you know, how things look. You know, we have a couple pictures here of carts. Those carts were all donated to us. We had started with wagons to put everything out to get everything out to the cars to help parents get everything that they get, because they get several boxes and bags of things. So it's quite a bit. In order to get it out, we had started with the wagons, but we found that the carts were a little more durable for that. And then you see some pictures of our filled up shelves and things ready to get distributed. We also have pictures of, these are hygiene bags that are in the picture with the wagons. And then we have a picture on the top right of one of the ladies in the snack bar handing things out through the snack bar. Next slide, please. So here shows one of our delivery days. We have our food coming in from the Second Harvest Food Bank. And then we have actually our superintendent and assistant superintendent helping with some of the distribution, the teams basically putting everything together. So we get a lot of parent volunteers in addition to our family center workers that come over and help us to get things ready. Next slide, please. I have lots of pictures of our food pantry stuff because I'm just so amazed at the work they do there. They get so much done. We have boxes with everything from produce to canned goods, hygiene supplies, even laundry soap. And then there are additional items in there that the parents can let us know that they need things. We have diapers and a few other different things like that, as if the parents say that they have a need. And so, next slide, please. I just got some contact information in here for anybody that has any additional questions. Pat Shelby is retired, so if you want to contact her, you can, but start with me or Mariana first, and we can give you as much information as we have if you're interested in starting something like this. It all depends on what the need is within your district. Because we did find that there was a need that we weren't totally aware of until the pandemic hit. And next slide, please. And again, and this is just our thank you, even if you're doing the nutrition services part of it, we're all partners in education. We all have to work together as a team to take care of our families. And thank you.
Rose, thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed all of those pictures and inspiration to addressing equity from a food pantry lens. I thought found it interesting too that it looked like there's somebody on your district team too, an equity partner on your contacts page.
Oh, yeah. So is it Mariana Torres? Yeah, so yeah, Mariana Torres is our Director of Equity and Access.
If we have any directors of equity access out there, or we have that, we just provided that position over here at Redlands. And I just find it so inspirational to start thinking outside of the box and making partnerships inside of our district as well as outside of our district to make a difference for our family. So bravo, girl. Thank you so much. And so for our next speaker, Miss Andrea Moray, she has a physical activity break. I'm eager to see what Miss Andrea is going to do. But first, let's do a sound check. Andrea, are you there?
I'm here, joining you from the Field of Dreams.
Did it? God bless you, girl. Okay, it's all you.
All right, guys, feel free to join me in a short break. You're welcome to stand or sit. I do recommend standing if you get a chance. We're going to do 3 really easy exercises, and you'll remember them because we're doing letters of the alphabet. We're not going to do any crazy letters like Z or Q. We're going to do some easy ones. So we're going to start with the letter I. You're going to imagine your body is the letter I. You're going to stand up nice and tall, shoulders back, head up straight. And if you can, put your hands behind your back and hold them together. And give them a nice squeeze. Pull down on your shoulders. And that'll open up the front of your chest and also stretch your shoulders down a little bit. And you are a tall and strong letter I. While you're doing that, you just want to take slow, deep breaths in and out your mouth. One more time, in and out. All right, we're going to switch from the letter I to the letter A. Make a nice wide stance with your legs. And we're going to reach up above our heads to make a tall capital A. Remember our breathing, nice deep breath in and out through our mouth, nice and slow. With this A, I'm going to have you stretch your hands up as high as you can. Really pull up high. And you'll feel your shoulders pinch a little and then just relax them down a little bit. Nice letter A. All right, and we're going to switch from the letter A to the letter X. Really easy, just arms wide, legs wide. Nice deep breaths. You're going to imagine you're pushing the walls apart. Stretch those walls as far as you can with your hands. Push them away, push them away. All right, and our X is going to get a little tired, so we're going to lean to one side. Try only to bend on this side. Don't lean forward. Don't lean back. Just bend to the side. Back up to middle and let that X get lazy in the other direction. Nice lean. Deep breaths. And back to center. And you can do just a couple shoulder rolls, up and back, up and back, up and back. And then a couple head tilts to the right ear and to the left ear. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me for just a few stretches. And back to the show, Betty.
Oh my goodness. I was hoping you'd walk away out of the field of dreams.
My room isn't that big. I can try.
I'm so proud of you. Thanks for getting us up off of our chairs here. Thank you. So back on track here. We are heading over to Veronica Calderon's corner. Miss Veronica, can I do a sound check with you?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Fantastic. So listen, Miss Veronica is going to talk to us about taking care of staff while getting food out to kiddos. Ooh, we're so excited to hear from you, Veronica. It's all you. Spotlight.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you so much, Betty. First off, I do want to shout out my mom-in-law, Julie Calderon, and Miss Rose Stark. They have been tremendous resources for me. I am a finance administrator for the Lewis Center for Educational Research. We have 2 charter schools that have been established, one for 24 years, AAE, and NSLA for 13 years. We just opened up a brand new campus for them. So we are really excited to have over 2,400 students enrolled with us. How I came in, I do have a finance background, but I overtook the food service department for our organization about 5 years ago. Go ahead and change next slide, please. So at the time, we had about 15 to 20% free and reduced at our AAE site and about 40 to 50% at our Norton site. Since then, AAE has about 40% now qualified, and Norton is in the 78% range. With having the finance background, I was able to really look at the numbers and just realize that there was a heavy lack of parent notification as to what resources are available for our students. One of the misconceptions with charter schools is that we don't have very many students that are free and reduced eligible, and that we cherry pick our students. However, that is really not the case. What it is we're a parent choice school, and parents are choosing to bring them here, and they kind of have this, even the parents have this misconception that, oh no, I don't need the resource. And so they don't want to apply. Through, picking my mother-in-law's brain, Julie, and talking about the different programs available, I was able to see not only does it impact free and reduced meals to those students, but that actually also impacts our school funding now with LCFF. So I grew that program right before pandemic. We were serving about 250 meals at AAE, and at Norton about 500. With pandemic, as Holly stated earlier, we have experienced a community trauma, and our students have come back with much higher needs than we've ever anticipated. And so trying to project out how many meals we needed was just practically impossible. It was like pulling a straw out of the thin air and like, okay, this is how many meals I need. And staff. We came back, and we've been in school for 27 months. I'm just kidding, only 2 months. But after 2 months, our numbers are still gradually increasing. We are serving now 700 to 1,000 meals per day. One of the other things that I've brought in is I've partnered with Pizza Factory and Domino's to be able to provide our students with brand name pizza once to twice a week, depending on the grade levels. And so again, like that's created that increase in meals. But that helped us in the fact that when we were not able to get specific entrees, we could at least fall back on something like that. So with now the amount of meal increase that we have, as you can see, with the increased meals, we don't have enough staff. And that's just being realistic. There are vacant positions that during COVID, families chose to, make the mom a stay-at-home mom. And so we didn't fill those positions because at the time we were only serving 100 to 200 meals any given day. And now at the return of, the COVID period, we've now had to fill those positions. So we've gotten really creative in our recruiting strategies. In just simply our emails, we have a QR code there pointing the people to our website to notify them that we have vacant positions. We're promoting in the pickup line, just talking to those stay-at-home moms and just letting them know, hey, wouldn't you love to work at the school that your child works at? This is a perfect opportunity for stay-at-home moms to join the workforce. The COVID impacts are much larger than just, meals for students, but also the workforce. We have a substitute shortage. We literally have no subs. So if we have somebody who's absent, as somebody who's in charge of the food service department, I have no backup plan. So I'm in the kitchen with the girls and just, making sure that they've got what they need. We've even had administrators step in, and it's literally all hands on deck, as some of the prior speakers stated. We are providing supplemental hours just to provide prepping time. And we are always highlighting staff wellness, because without our staff being well, emotionally, spiritually, physically, that absenteeism can't be addressed. And so we are always, talking to our staff about staff wellness. Next slide, please. So how are we getting the food out to the amount of students that we are serving? We've had to really think about our salad bar versus individually wrapped vegetables. One of the other key things that I worked on is revamping our food program and bringing in fresh fruits and vegetables. Well, with COVID, our ideas of being able to serve the students through salad bar was kind of like, okay, are they going to contract COVID by sharing the tongs and things like that? And so we started out individually serving some of the products. And so I'm going to show some pictures in just a second. But another thing that we've had to think about is creating those multiple points of service. Because of the volume of students that now have to be served, our kitchens were not built to serve that many meals in one shot. So we've purchased grab and go carts. We've looked at, trying to get some grants to help with some of the additional equipment needs that we have. We've had to think about replenishing. And, it's pretty simple to just, get the meals or get the vegetables and replenish. But when you don't have the bodies to go back into the kitchen to bring out the food, then that becomes a little bit difficult. So we've had to be very creative. We're, putting our vegetables on bun racks and having them like right at the door so that we can replenish quickly. And lastly, just prepping ahead. Next slide, please. So here, we had originally started, well, we can individually package each vegetable and let the kids just go through and grab it so that they're not all touching the tongs, hoping that each child will take just what they touch. For the most part, our kids are very trainable and moldable, and they were able to follow this process. However, manpower, it was not there. I was creating more stress on our girls than what was essentially needed. And so like Holly said, I had to go to the team and say, tell me what is not working. Why are you so stressed out? And I feel that just by giving them the opportunity to speak openly and freely and honest with me, we were able to come up with solutions that can reduce the work stress. We already have enough home stress as it is. Creating an additional work stress or making it a hostile environment is not really what I wanted. So next slide. So we ended up going back to the traditional salad bar model. One of the things that we do is our lunches have been staggered by grade level. We used to have grade spans come in together. We now have third grade coming in, fourth grade at 5-minute intervals, so that between each grade level, we are sanitizing real fast, swapping out tongs. There is no research showing that COVID is linked to food. Buffets are operating. However, we're trying to take as many precautions as we can. Next slide, please. So replenishing, like I said, we've had to come up with some ideas to be able to replenish, as well as to have enough entrees available. I don't know how many districts that are listening or charter schools have run out of food during lunch periods. I know I have on a couple of occasions. Thankfully, we don't have as many students. So when we run out, it's 20 to 40 students, which is a big deal because we want to get them fed. So one of the things that we've done is really utilized our holding units and brought them closer to our service line so that they can easily take those meals and replenish. Salad bar, like I said, we're using our bun racks more strategically, and we always have cold sandwiches thawed out. We are a vended meals setup. So all of our meals are already prepackaged for us. It's pretty much a heat and serve model. And so cold sandwiches, we always make sure to order extra of those so that we have them to be able to use. And yes, we are still with preferred meals. I saw that come up, Holly. Go ahead, next slide, please. Prepping ahead. So one of the things with the staff shortage that we are doing is, I talked to the girls and I said, how can we make this easier? How can we make their workflow easier? The biggest takeaway that I got from them was that we don't have enough prepping time. There's not enough time or hours in the day to be able to pan everything up, heat it, repan it. There's just not enough time. So I asked our team, how can we problem solve this together? And so one of the ideas was if they can just get some supplemental hours, which is something that I thought about, but really having the team collaborate and coming up with solutions together, I feel I got more buy-in rather than telling them, hey, can you work, or please work an additional 3 hours. So instead of directing them, they came up with that solution. So they stay after. I have one gal who comes in earlier and just preps and also does some grab and go breakfasts so that we can support those different point of sales. Next slide, please. I think I'm almost done. As I was saying earlier, staff wellness. We are really trying to promote a healthy workplace. I'm constantly reminding the girls, and they're probably like, oh, here comes the COVID Nazi. But I am constantly reminding them to wear their masks, to please stay more than 6 feet apart, work on different tasks rather than working on tasks together. And then checking in with them because they're working on different tasks. They're not having that as close camaraderie as they used to. And so it's, having that, check in. How are you guys doing? Is there anything that I can support you with? Simple things like Holly was saying, asking them what kind of tools do they need to make their lives easier. The girls wanted to cut up fruit and bag it. And so they asked for a tape dispenser to be able to, I don't know what it's called, but you put the baggie through and it tapes up the bag. And so just getting them little simple tools like that and trying to be more proactive rather than reactive has definitely helped our team come along. Both of our teams are fairly new, and I think just the best thing that we can do is just try to work together and navigate through all of these issues. And kudos and hands down to all of you directors who are, trying to navigate through these uncharted waters. There's a lot, and our food service and guys and gals are seriously amazing. I've appreciated the time that I've gotten to go into the kitchen because now I appreciate and value them a lot more. And that is what I am learning. And lastly, again, thank you to all the directors who are willing to share and collaborate. these meetings. Matt Upton, you're an amazing speaker. So thank you. And I will pass the baton back to Miss Betty.
Veronica, way to knock it out of the ballpark. We
Thank
love that.
you.
Thank you so much for all of those fantastic ideas. Prep has been one of the challenges for us as well. Hey, Tommy, No Kid Hungry, would you go to the next slide, please? And would you spot both myself and Mr. Sean Lair for a moment? Mr. Sean Lair?
Check, baby, check, baby. One,
Yeah,
two.
yeah, sound check. I got something
Okay.
for you, friend.
Uh-oh.
Got a little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry. Be happy. Do, do, do. So it is all you, friend. I know you have
right.
some fun stuff to share with us.
Well, I hope so. And apologies, I didn't put a PowerPoint together. I could make one after the fact. And my goal today is just to, from my perspective, update everyone on the supply chain, again, from my perspective, and that being, I'll share with you here in a minute. But first, I just want to take a minute and thank No Kid Hungry. This is the first chance I've had to participate in one of your events. And I remember when you started, when the organization or the mission was started, I was wondering if it would be successful, and it's been wildly successful, and identified a void really that needed to be filled. So my hat's off to your efforts, and hope to continue to support your initiative. I'm Sean Lear. I'm CEO of GS Foods Group and the division Gold Star Foods. More specifically, we work with K-12 school nutrition programs. We currently have distribution facilities in 11 states, servicing 14 states. On a daily basis, we touch 27% of the US school lunch population. So it's quietly become larger, but it's been a unique perspective and a unique timing to be a part of. This is my 27th year. I just did the math before this call, working with school nutrition programs, and that's nuts to me. But I couldn't be more proud to have found kind of my lane. I was going to be a Secret Service agent and ended up doing this. So what a departure. You make a plan and God laughs. I try to, in talks, always recognize what we've been through over the last 2 years, and recognizing our child nutrition partners going through COVID. And, we had discussion earlier, and Rose mentioned, the farm to family program and all of the extraordinary efforts many of you on the phone, and certainly Agnes's district, and did to feed people during incredibly trying times. And I know Miss Betty or Dr. Betty as well. And I was shared with Matt Upton on the beginning of this. I got up with my cup of coffee every morning. He kept me going. But I really want to take a chance to recognize that. And it's nice to have that partnership. And through Holly's presentation, it really kind of hit home that something I don't recognize well is my team. And I do internally, but not publicly. And it's humbling to think that our coworkers behind the scenes have done extraordinary things, and we've suffered great loss as it relates to COVID in our organization, and there's a sense of grief that goes with that. And so, Holly, thank you for sharing those bullet points. They're not lost on me, but I think what it goes to is the mission of what we're trying to accomplish. We're going to talk about supply chain. Don't worry. But I think I want you to know the ethos in which I approach this presentation and everything that we do and I do. As we talk about the K-12 supply chain, I think it's super important, and this is asterisk my opinion, but I think it's well-founded. The K-12 school nutrition supply chain was broken before COVID. And it's broken because of a lot of things, not anyone on the phone's fault. But the infrastructure for schools is wildly outdated. And most of the facilities were built 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and the kitchens have not been changed. The corresponding storage and cold storage and dry storage has not changed proportionally. So just from a facility standpoint, it's almost impossible to meet the demand that you have in your kitchens just from a logistics standpoint. The other part is there's some 15,000 school districts nationally, and 2/3 of those have less than 5,000 students, meaning we have an extremely fragmented market. And fragmentation means variability. I mean, there's no There's no consistent theme to it. There's no opportunity to scale. So when you think from a supply standpoint, you can have a lot of chicken nuggets, but they're going out to all these disparate customers at disparate times without any demand. The other thing is the child nutrition market, most of it's due to procurement regulations, doesn't allow you to make commitments on food, which is how all of the other food world works, is food and contracted demand up front. And so manufacturers have certainty of market, farmers have certainty of market. So all of these things were headwinds we faced pre-COVID. From our business standpoint, everything that we designed was dependent on a system that kept feeding itself. Feeding is probably not that, kept supplying itself throughout the time. It was dependent on our ability to pivot, make up for mistakes, using technology to anticipate demand planning. We could pick up things from local cold storage to fill gaps pretty readily. It was just seamless. You just kept going. We had the opportunity to engage customers, some of the customers on this call, with EDI, electronic order integration. So it was just virtually from your system, whether it be Titan or whatever, go right into our system and flow, and there'd be an order, just popping and shaking. And even with that, things stopped. And when we had the whole system stop, we had a couple of things. One, we had a tremendous amount of food in the system that wasn't workable. And then that started to deplete. And what we found was that we were starting to gear up for this next year. And about 8 months ago, we met as a team and said, we've got to get out in front of this. We believe there's going to be a supply issue. We believe distribution is going to have issues. We didn't anticipate the labor issues, the significance of that. I think broadly, none of us really did. But what we've seen manifest now is extreme demand for food. So all your competitors, any other food service segment is competing for your food. And we've seen our manufacturers, as you are, really struggle with labor, getting enough labor there to produce the food. So we have manufacturers that have competing notions, and many distributors have competing factors with you as well. So labor short everywhere, and we've seen a huge demand. So we've seen this engine. It's like my dad's old 1972 Dodge. Getting it started is tough. Once it gets going after a while and blows blue smoke, it starts to work really well. The whole system is starting back up again. What we didn't anticipate was the issues with packaging, ingredients, raw materials in short supply. So as we look to just what goes into making XYZ, we're seeing incredible inflation. And what's happening is many manufacturers aren't able, although we're seeing force majeure and price increases across the board, we're not able to, many of the manufacturers aren't able to pass those price increases to the K-12 market as readily as they can other places. So they're having to pivot what capacity they have to that. Transportation, and I apologize, you've seen this all in the news, but I just want to give you kind of a critical view of transportation. Anything that comes from Asia, namely apple juice concentrate, which is in every juice box that you have, comes from China. All of the fruit juice, all of the juices that's in an aseptic comes from Asia. Those containers used to be $3,000. The big C containers that used to say Sealand. Now we're about $25,000 to $28,000 per container if we can get them on here. So it's just everything's slowing. You can see how that goes. What we've seen, and we didn't anticipate this, was just the rapid change of supply network, the lead times changing. And that's across the board. So we've seen the vendors, if you're in school nutrition, the ones that are like Crescent Wrench and Drywall, the names that you would use in everything that you do, lead times going from 2 weeks to 12 weeks, which is extraordinary. So you imagine that's basically planning a whole season out for a delivery when customer demand is maybe 2 days out. What's interesting, and a lot of you can empathize if you're our customers, having a delivery show up without things you expected to be on the order. Same is happening from the whole thing, the whole supply. And I'd say we're in a very similar business, different ends of it, and we don't necessarily make the finished good, but we have a lot of the same mechanics on a different scale. The thing that's been really phenomenal for us as it relates to fresh fruits and vegetables is if God wasn't upset enough, he decided to have weather issues this summer. And we've had, our orange crop changing 3 to 4 weeks sooner than normal, switching from one breed to, I always get them wrong, so I just say from one to another. We've seen peaches in short supply. We've seen broccoli crops be devastated, but it's also all of our value-added processors. So anyone that takes a head of lettuce and makes it into something else is value added. Them struggling with not only quality, but being able to process it. The last thing that I'll share with you, just as a market condition, and hopefully I get some questions, and I just wanted to kind of give you an overview. We judge everything by fill rate, what we order or what's delivered. And usually from our vendors, it's about 98% of what we order we get. Right now, we're below 75% from our supply network. So what we order is what comes in and anticipated. You can see that there's a delta or a gap there, causing things to struggle. But there's positives, and a lot of positives when we're all happy and healthy, hopefully today. We're all blessed to have the crews we have, because I think it's going to get to my what can we do. The crew and the people we have are the most vital ingredient. It's not the laptops, it's not anything we have. And I guess I'm entering my 50th year of life, and this is I'm coming to understand that's the most important commodity. But related to commodities, we've seen utilization of processed commodities at a record pace, probably 15 to 20% higher utilization than past. So it means that we're able to affect commodity discounts. What we've seen, and I think more specifically to my firm, we've seen labor shortages incredible. We started hiring 3 months ahead of the need, and we're still undersubscribed. We've been trying to message to get orders in early. It's not early enough. We've continued to see warehouse and just labor shortages. Where we haven't seen a labor shortage is where we actually ramped up employment is in our customer service. I don't think it's coincidental. Many of those applicants are women, and they're coming to work. And my warehouse and transportation are generally men, and I'm getting not enough of them. So we're getting lots of applicants part of where we need, and it's an observation, not a conclusion, but I just, what we're seeing also is having to rely heavily on third-party resources, which we resist for a couple of reasons. One is they don't carry all of the ethos that we have, but also they're wildly expensive. So that'd be with third-party carriers. But our objective, and I think my partners in industry, has been we need to get food there. So it means we need to meet capacity, and it may not be the right thing. So we're doing that. As we look forward, and I don't know, I think I'm short on time. So I'll just say a couple of things that I would recommend. And now that we're probably 2 full months into this and we've seen it decline, one is not to be Debbie Downer, but I don't expect this to get better. I expect it to find a new bottom, especially as we look at freight and transportation going into the holidays. But I think that there's some things that we can do. And I think there's a couple things that you're already doing. Agnes mentioned it, and she's a partner that, limited menus because you have less variables. Betty has been an incredible partner, just being creative with us, and that'll get into the big finish. The ability to pivot with your staff and the ability for them to know how to use that product and process, cook and serve that product. Utilize USDA foods. Currently, one co-op we manage, we have 160,000 cases of food on our shelves that's ready to be shipped. If we can work to put that where it can have utility, it would be wildly effective. The last thing I'll end with, and this is, Agnes mentioned it, her nutrition coordinator on the phone, is we've looked at this. One of the issues we have is the moving ball. And the moving goalpost is that we expect to have something here and it's not. So virtually every order from any one of your vendors has to be touched and has to be looked at, which takes a tremendous amount of effort rather than it flowing in EDI. Engaging with your suppliers on a personal level and having that strategy. We're looking at creating more resources so we can engage and field that information and be constructive. But it comes down to, and I'm happy that this is the case, but it's really our human element. And that's what Betty referenced. She engages us at a very deep and creative level to say, how can we take this human level and figure out what works best for us? I think that's the only thing we can do, bearing in mind that no supplier is dependable right now. From a manufacturer standpoint, not for their own accord, but I just think we have to be ready for that. And it's just going to take constant communication for the next few months, which means more hard work, which we're all conditioned to. That being the case, I couldn't be prouder to be involved in this and be talking to you today. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but I think it's going to take a lot of creativity and a lot of empathy on everyone's part to get there. Betty, hopefully that met the mark, but I certainly would open it for any question or debate.
Thank you, Sean. I humbly submit to you, Mr. Lear. I spent an entire evening with your Gold Star driver, Miguel. And I think that when you get to know the human element that's behind this and you have a learned heart, you know, the inspiration comes from both sides of the fence. And when my phone rings on Sunday, and it is Margie Fletcher, I am grateful for your team, and we are going to get through it together. And I hope you join us again. We need more of you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
Thank you. Ronkus, Robin Ronkus.
Yes, I'm here.
You want to blast through our Q&A, friend?
Yes, there weren't
Thank
that many
you.
questions, but I just want to direct you to the chat box for all the different links that people have provided there. Our one question was actually from you, Betty, to Agnes Lally from Garden Grove Unified School District, and that's where I went to school. So Betty asks, Agnes, with your secondary suppliers, were you able to establish an open PO? If not, can you share your workaround with this? You mentioned Ralph's grocery store as an example. And then there was another similar question by Julie Garcia, and you answered that one regarding Costco.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we have a district credit card that we're allowed to use in case of emergency. So we are considering this an emergency. So I was able to use my district credit card to purchase items from Costco and from Ralph's. The district had to up my limits because I have to go shopping there almost every other day. So that's how I get around with it. And again, because this is an emergency, I don't need to do a POs or have a previous approval. So I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you so much. And then somebody said you need to share your breakfast burrito recipe.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do is I am going to send you my email. So send me an email and I'll be happy to send you my recipe. Our kids love them. We do 3 different types of breakfast burritos. Really, besides cereal, this is like the most popular items. So that's why I need all those tortillas.
Okay. And then actually there were not any other questions. Most of them were just comments. So I think we can go to Matt.
Thank you.
So thank everyone.
Thank you, Robin Ronkus. And yes, Mr. Upton, 6 for 6 for the QCC webinar, the sprinkles on all of our webinars. And we understand that you have a big game tomorrow, and you're going to close it out with the key to conquering the scarcity giant. Mr. Matt Upton.
It is a big game tomorrow, and we'll walk away with a W. Listen, I just want to commend each and every one of the speakers. You gave each of us practical tools that will inspire and help us. And I want to encourage everybody that's here, all 130 of us. I would encourage you to reach out to each one of these speakers and put them as part of your team, to give them to your team. The tools they gave, the things that Holly said, that Sean said, that Veronica said, that Sean said, each one of them, everybody on your team needs to hear those things, those tools, need to see those things, because there are times that they feel like this giant of scarcity is taunting them all the time. And the challenge of when a giant is taunting you, rather than confronting the giant, what we do is we talk about the giant as we move away from it. And as we move away from the giant gets bigger. It gets scarier. It gets much worse. And I would encourage you to face the giant. And in celebration of our 6th Quad County, I want to give you a 6-edged tool to be able, a key to be able to conquer the scarcity giant. So on a piece of paper, write down the word Scarce and just write it down the side of your page. Just write it down in the margin, just coming down. The first edge of this key is to serve your mission. Your mission. If your mission is supplying, if your mission is serving students, whatever your mission is, know your mission and serve that mission regardless of what's going on. And for us that are in schools, at school sites, it's our students. It's our students. And it's not the governing agencies. It's not those ones out there that will never come and eat with us. It is our students. And because of the pandemic, it's their families. It's their families. And so the very first thing is to serve your mission all the time. Know your mission. Sit down and write it out and put it in as few words as possible. What is your mission? My mission changed as a result of the pandemic, and it became conquer your challenges, because this pandemic reared its head and stood as a giant and gave us big challenges. And so we have to constantly serve our mission and conquer this giant. Number two, communicate this regularly, that needed resources are out there and discoverable. Rather than cowering, rather than throwing our hands up all the time and saying, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? Pivot around that and reframe that and say this out loud. The resources are there. The resources are there. We just have to go find them. Like Agnes going and getting credit limits raised so she can go shopping every other day. Betty went to the community. It was astonishing to serve alongside of Betty and her crew on Thanksgiving to give out turkeys after turkey after turkey after turkey all day long, from before sunup to after sundown, and people coming. And how did they do that? Because they saw the need, they communicated to each other. The resources are out there. We just have to go discover them. They are there. Number three, remember, number one was serve your mission. Number two is communicate that the resources are there. We just have to go find them. Number three, align yourself with this mindset. With this mindset, there's plenty to go around. I loved what Sean said. There's a lot of food in holding right now. And just change your mindset. So many of us have this mindset that there's a problem. There's something wrong. There's terribleness out there. Change your mindset to this mindset. There's plenty. There's plenty to go around. There's plenty to go around. And then number four, rely on those that are around you who have moved forward, who have gained what Betty called a learner's heart. You see, rely on those people, because those people, it's those people that all of a sudden the light will go on and the resources will appear and the solutions will happen when you rely on those around you. And then discontinue leaning into those who have fallen aside and fallen down and given away to, it's a problem. It's a problem. It's, oh, the sky's falling. Just move away from there and lean into those ones that you can rely on, because they're there. Then number five, create your own breaks. I heard somebody say one time, we never get any breaks. We never get any breaks. We never get any breaks. And I disagree with that. We make our own breaks. The way we make our own breaks is by leaning into those people like the speakers that were here today. Every one of them, 5-star people giving us 5-star information that every one of our team members need to hear. And then just create your own breaks through focusing on the trophy wins, those great big wins. talk about those things. When Rose was showing all the pictures of everything that has happened, those pictures ought to be everywhere because those are trophies. Those are satisfying wins. And it's those things that we need to look at on a regular basis. And then number six, energize your greatest resource. Your greatest resource is not your ability to create PowerPoints. It is not your ability to create good Canvas publications. It is not your ability to know how to do Zoom. Your greatest resource is your people. And the more often that each of you can break loose from your office, break loose from the chains and the boundaries of that 10 by 10 or that 10 by 20 office and get out there and slowly meander through your people and get next to them, you will energize them. And when they are energized, guess what happens? Vast amounts of hope flows towards them and they will become more activated. And at the end, those that we serve, that we started off, those that are part of our mission will be more comforted and more satisfied because we showed up and we slayed the giant of scarcity. Thank you, No Kid Hungry, and Betty for hosting today and for the great honor of being here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Upton. You have a few Dodger fans on the line.
That's
for you
okay.
as well. Tomorrow.
That's what makes great playing is you have to have a somebody that's your rival and that you can do that because Dodgers and Giants make each other great.
Yeah. Let's go, Dodgers. Let's go. Hey, on the real, very, very, very well said. Thank you for giving us our serve your mission. And I also liked what Sean said about the mission. You know, when you make plans, God laughs at you. So to all of our colleagues and everybody that makes this a beautiful place to call home, and make sure that every school day, every kiddo knows they are safe from hunger. Many, many blessings to you and your team. Go have a great day. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care.